I'll give you a real world example here. Cascade Asset Management Company is the family office owned by Bill Gates. They are the owner of the Four Seasons Hotel. The Four Seasons Hotel during the dot-com era, about 98, 99, that was actually one of Bill Gates' largest investments. It was what's called a take private. Most folks don't remember this, but the Four Seasons used to be a publicly listed hotel company. Bill Gates and some folks in the Middle East joined forces via his family office, took the company private off the US stock market, and the Four Seasons has been owned by him and those group of investors ever since. It's a big deal because back then, it was one of the first times ever that a large luxury branded hotel had been taken private in this way. And you can think back, this is over 25 years ago. Look at how every major hotel brand has kind of copied them, from Marriott's, the St. Regis, etc. In the high net worth context, he's an extreme example of hundreds of billions of dollars, but folks who don't have that same level of finances can still do a version of that for their own life. You can do things like this with anything around $1 million or more. If you think about Marcy Ventures, which is Jay-Z's venture fund, or Queensbridge Ventures, which is Nas's venture fund, they are structured like this. Does Nas know about venture capital? No. Is he a great rapper? Yes. Does he have access to a lot of capital and a well-known name? Yes. I don't know their exact structure, but what their structure is if you see the management company box in green, that's where a high net worth individual can go out to a venture capitalist like an Ascend and partner with them because they have the licenses at the SEC to actually make investments and do all those things. That's what folks are doing to do what Nipsey said, which is all money in, no money out. So if I'm just a high net worth individual and I want to take an investment into your startup in this room, I can do that by writing an individual check. But what venture capitalists are doing is they are setting up these structures because of two different reasons. One, they will have that equity in your business, but also the money that they spend to find those businesses to generate that return, that all becomes a tax write-off. And finally, I list a number of the different types of investments that Cascade has done, and they're doing everything from real estate holding companies, agriculture and land, all sorts of private deals. And in the context of this conference, everything I've talked about up here so far is what's called alternative investments. And alternative investments refers to the broad category of non-publicly traded stocks and bonds and equities, etc. When you talk about taking the Four Seasons private, that's an alternative investment structure. When you talk about investing in a Coinbase, a Facebook, etc., before they're in the stock market, those are alternative investments. Folks like Rihanna, I'm sure everyone knows Fenty. That Fenty structure mirrors what I just put together. She set up a corporate structure. She was blessed to be in that position. She doesn't have to know everything. She can hire the relevant advisors to come in. She can take a piece of equity on the back end of these deals and then change her life and not actually have to do music anymore. We can do versions of the same thing. You don't have to have $500 million to pull these things together, in such that now it's easier to actually qualify for a lot of these things. You can individually decide that I want to sit for a multiple choice exam, and you can now become a sophisticated investor is the term, and you can participate in some of these structures. And so when you start looking at the real wealth that people have been able to accumulate over the last 20 or 30 years, these all came from private markets.